We begin with Native American families, who were, after all, the first families. We proceed cautiously, knowing that among the hundreds of tribes that occupied the American continent, women played many different roles. For the most part, however, the object of the Native American family, like that of its tribe or group, was survival. This is in sharp contrast to the European family, which then and now sought status, wealth, and even power. Women in Native American families exercised a certain amount of clout. They were, after all, responsible for feeding everybody within the group, and they were also responsible for parceling out scarce resources like furs to keep people warm, or food and grain to sustain life. Women might also produce objects for trade and engage in the exchange of goods. But women who exercised decision-making power over food might also acquire a voice in the politics of the group. Iroquois women, for example, could speak in tribal councils, though they could generally not be part of the decision-making process. When major decisions, such as whether the tribe ought to go to war or whether it should move to a new location, didn't go their way, women took recourse in other ways. We know, for example, that women of the Iroquois tribe refused to release corn or grain to their warrior men when they disapproved of where the men were going to war or why they were going to fight. Occasionally, women could use their kin relationships to exercise military leadership as well. So Wetamu, the partner of the son of a Wampanoag Indian chieftain, actually took over as the chief warrior when her father-in-law and her husband were no longer able to fight. Luckily, her military prowess enabled her to live up to her kin relationships. In other ways, too, women exercised authority. In many Native American tribes, women served as keepers of the faith and of ritual. As such, they exercised a certain influence over appropriate rituals to perform in the course of tribal duties. Children, who in the Western world generally belonged to the father and his family, in Indian tribes belonged to the mother's family. When they reached maturity, boys were turned over to their fathers' families to become warriors, but until then, it was the mother who influenced them most. These patterns began to change when the fur trade took a leap forward in the late 17th and early part of the 18th century. Interactions between Westerners and Native Americans then disrupted the stability of the tribes and opened up questions about what was the most efficient way for a family to function. As families began to rely more and more on trade and on increasing the supply of goods available for trade, women in Indian families slowly lost clout. They relied less on their own capacity to sustain and support and sew and mend for their own families, and turned more and more to products available through trade. As young people were trained early to acquire and value the products of trade, think again about furs, agrarian lives became less profitable. Nomadism increased in intensity, the status and authority of women declined, and matrilineality came under attack. Greater reliance on Europeans often resulted in a loss of power for women, but not always. Think about Pocahontas, the Native American woman we all know, for example. Pocahontas's somewhat unusual father wanted to amass both wealth and power. Marrying off his daughter to a Westerner was one way to obtain both. But Pocahontas's marriage out proved so successful that it brought greater authority to the Native American women in her tribe. This unusual situation should not obscure the loss of power most Native American women experienced as a result of expanded trade.